San Juan Island Sculpture Park. David Jenkins. I'm president of the board. I get up with the sun and come out here and spend, 4 or 5 hours. It's a wonderful hobby. I think it's extraordinary. I think it's becoming extraordinary. We do have about 150, maybe a little more than that now, sculptures from all over the country, but mostly Northwest. On many of them, we do have permanent signage that talks more about either the artist or why they did it or what it's for. So I believe in being very information rich. I think that's very helpful. I think our signature pieces we have actually purchased. So we probably own now maybe a fifth. The only art thing I created is the little starfish over there for the kids to make their own sculptures. I have no artistic talent whatsoever. Now, my curator, as I said, knows art backwards and forwards. So I think I enjoy art immensely. And I particularly enjoy interactive art because that's what I think people, they love to be able to interact with a piece of art in one way or another. But no, I have no art background whatsoever. I'm an exhibit designer, basically, and a retired biologist. The nice thing is we're free. It's only by donations, but we're totally self-supporting based on those donations, and we're averaging about 70,000 visitors a year. I think we are now fairly well known in the local art community. And then in the summer we have volunteers, and we're always trying to get volunteers. But it's a beautiful place to work. You know, that's what I love about it. This is my morning activity, and this is my exercise. I always kid the people that come at my age. I don't have to go to the gym. I get my exercise here. So when I was 19, I moved to Florida. I raised my family in Florida, and did my first year work in freshwater ecology there, and then did my graduate work at the University of Louisville. Then I went to work for the Louisville Zoo, and when I was teaching, I realized that people like to see the real thing. And in a typical lab, there was this huge array of preserved everything. Pickled pigs and pickled sharks and dried out flowers. So I started, that's what I was doing, freshwater ecology, I started going out and bringing things back to the lab and using dissecting microscopes, which are stereoscopic, which are much easier for people to use than the standard microscope. So when I started working at the zoo, I thought, I could create a building, actually, where people could learn on their own. And so I designed a building it had an indoor stream, it had a special room for young children, it had a theater, it had live animals. So I could take and have a boa constrictor, a live boa constrictor, along with the skeleton of a boa constrictor, so you could see the little vestigial legs in the skeleton, all right? So combining the real thing, I had a elephant skull and a human skull, so you could illuminate it and see how big the cranium was. So that was called the MetaZoo, and that was my first major exhibit, and it was it was the first of its kind back 1980. And then I got asked to go to Toledo, and I worked there for about 10 years on their science museum. And then I started up a wildlife park in southern Ohio, and then I got recruited to be the deputy director of the American Association of Zoos and Aquariums. But that was an indoor job, and I discovered, having worked in zoos all my whole career, I didn't like working in an office. Okay, so then I kind of was asked, and they had a position for associate director at the Smithsonian's National Zoo, and I got that, and my first job there was to create the Amazonia Science Gallery, and again, I did have a pretty good idea. As I said, people like the real thing. I wanted students to be able to talk to scientists and ask them questions like, what school should I go to? So I bribed the scientists. I created this, it was a large building with 3 labs, including an electron microscope. And I said, you can use the labs, but I want you to interact with the public when you feel like it. And it worked pretty well. So I wound up at the Smithsonian, which is a marvelous place, and I got to travel around the world a couple of times. I'm probably one of the few people that had a chance to go to China twice to help get pandas. Yeah, that was neat. And I got to go to a lot of fascinating places. Yeah, working for the Smithsonian was the peak of my career. I also got a chance, though, while I was in Florida, and it's an interesting story. I got a chance to see John Glenn. I've always been interested in the space program. So, sure enough, I was there when John Glenn was launched the first time. And then I took my family and I saw Apollo 8, Apollo 11, and Apollo 13. Well, we're at the Smithsonian now, and the vet was friends with one of the veterinarians that was going up on the shuttle. And so the astronauts came, and I got to talking to them. And of course, they'd never seen a Saturn V go up, which was incredible. And then I mentioned, and they were getting ready to send John Glenn up for the second time. And they invited me to come. So I got a chance to see John Glenn go up from the press area. It was only 3 miles away. Oh, man. And the television cannot do it justice. It's like the sky splitting open. It's like a new sun rising up. It's amazing if you're there.